Cheer! Y'all know what it
28 days.
is. And y'all know how I do it, your baby, Big DZ. And y'all know I got a good show for you tonight. I had to dig deep and come with my BEST. I got some strong sisters. I'm talking about Mother Earth. So I'm talking about Queens. Sister to my left. Y'all know her as Sister Rachelle Wilson. Y'all know her from Make Some Intelligent Noise. Sister Ra, tell them what you're doing and what you're into.
First and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me and for having me here tonight. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor. And Make Some Intelligent Noise is something that I birthed literally from my soul and my spirit as a mother whose son was incarcerated in 2010 for a liquor store robbery, and that turned into a 25-year sentence. The judge I did not feel that he liked people of my son's complexion, his color, and so I began a fight. I had no idea what to do.
Judges. We know how they treat us. Let's get to my next guest, and then we're going to get into the show. Y'all remember Sister JRenee from last round. She was so informative, I had to welcome her back. Jay, tell them what's going on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. You know, it's me, your girl JRenee, with Hip Hop Humanism and Hip Hop Humanism Radio. My current fight is I'm making a documentary about the Delaware Police, more specifically the Wilmington Police. And anyone that has any stories, come holler at me. Get in contact with me. You can stay anonymous. I'm going to expose the wrongs that they are doing. Over the last 15 years, they've killed 56 people. That might not be a lot as compared to other places, but 30 of them died. Yeah. And that's an issue. No one has been prosecuted based on the law of immunity.
56 have been shot and 30 have died.
Yes.
And even one is too many. Let me get, and I appreciate that introduction. As always, there's a great energy with me and JRenee. Now, let me tell you this. Sister Ra is so hard to catch up with these days because she's really trending. She's becoming popular, and more people are starting to follow her and attach to her movement. Now, Make Some Intelligent Noise. I'm just going to give you an overview of how I see it. She's a mother who refused to take it laying down that the state has kidnapped her son. Her son's been in bondage for 10 years, and she's done every day with him. So he's been in there in jail and she's been out here in jail. But the difference between her and your mother is she is still fighting. Ra, tell him some more. Tell him some more.
I like the way you say I refuse to lay down and take it. You know, I had absolutely no idea about anything with the law or politics or how any of that worked. I just knew that prisons were, slave camps. Like, that's all I knew about them. And I didn't want my son to be there. I knew he's too good of a person to be there. He's too intelligent and his heart is too good. So when a judge said 25 years for a robbery of a liquor store, I knew something was wrong.
Well, did he kill somebody? 25 years, he must have killed somebody then.
He did not kill anyone. There were no injuries.
Hear this shit?
So I started with trying to understand just the charges that my son had and that was like the red pill and the blue pill and going down the rabbit hole. Once I got started and I learned what words meant, I haven't stopped. So now I'm a student of law. I've been studying for 10 years, and I help other people who have legal or lawful cases coming up before the judges.
Let me reword that. Once she educated herself. See, it's all about self-education. If you can't get it from here or there, you have to go get it for yourself. And again, mothers who have an incarcerated child, you need to get with this sister right here. Go to her website, go to her social media page, get with her, get behind her. Maybe you can get your son out. Now, one person can't do it, but it's strength in numbers.
I always use the analogy, I always use the analogy of a center block and a toothpick. If you have one toothpick and you put a center block on top of it, the chances are, likelihood based on the laws of physics, the center block is going to crush the toothpick eventually. Right. But if you put 2, 3, 10, 15, 100, 500, the more toothpicks you put under the center block, not only will it hold that center block, now you can put another center block on top of it. And for me, the center blocks are the criminal justice reform movement. They are the police and their behaviors, how they treat people, not just black, but all people, but in particular, black, brown, and golden people. At the moment that they run into someone and there's a situation, we have to understand police are trained to control the situation. That's what they're trained to do, is just control the situation. They're not there to be diplomatic. Right. They're not there to make friends and to de-escalate situations. Right. They should be trained on that, but they're not.
To be trained on it.
So these are the center blocks on the toothpick. And I know it might seem like egotistical, but I just have to say this to you. I'm that one toothpick, and I must have at least 5 center blocks that I'm holding. Because I'm doing more than one thing.
You're wearing quite a few hats, and it doesn't sound egotistical to me. Actually, it sounds cool. Right. You know what I mean? I just want more people to support you, especially mothers. Right. Now, it's been known in history, women are the strongest. You guys, what I like about a woman is this. She'll have a messed up baby's dad, and she'll push that stroller with 3 babies and carry the other one on her hip, go to work at 2 jobs, and stand in line to get the house and wait for her voucher. She'll do all of that. So women are strong. Yeah, they are much stronger. And then I didn't even tell you about the laundry she's going to do, the food she's going to prepare, the diapers she's going to change. Women are strong. But our men, we must step up.
Yes.
We must meet them here.
That's what we need.
We must meet them in the middle, because the system has kidnapped a lot of us. And not just bondage. They kidnapped us through homosexuality. They kidnapped us through drugs. They have snatched us out of the equation.
The hood is set up for failure.
So now, Jay, let me tag you right on in, because you know about the rules of what the police are supposed to do and the de-escalation process that's supposed to take place. Right. Can you give us some enlightenment on that, please?
Okay, so one of the bylaws that the police are supposed to follow is called the use of force continuum. It actually exists. Now, before I say that, let me say this. I think that the police department as a whole, all across America, has got to a point where they teach one thing in school, and then once they get to wherever they're going, it's like, oh man, this is how we do that. It has to be, because when you look at their paperwork, they're trained to do all of the stuff right. But something is happening once they get to where they're finally going. So the use of force continuum. And one thing that I think has happened in America is Americans have become used to the police breaking the law. And a lot of times, no one ever looks into what they're supposed to be doing. I started to look in it because I started seeing all these videos of Americans, not just black people, even though it is mostly us, because you have racist people and you have white men who are scared of black men. That's their thing, and they become police officers, you know?
Yes.
So they
teach.
Yeah, so the use of force continuum. So, like I said, I think Americans have gotten used to the police breaking the law. For example, you might see a police officer speaking to a citizen, and the citizen is cussing him out, and you might see this police officer hit him in the face or tackle him or arrest him. That is not their laws. They're not supposed to do that. If 2 civilians are having a conversation and they start mouthing off, if one of them hits the other, it's assault. It's the same for the police officers. But it seems that a lot of Americans kind of say, well, that's the police thing. They deal with criminals, so they're allowing the police to commit these crimes right in front of their face.
And let me jump in here. She said, and I agree with you, people, onlookers, are thinking, oh, that's the police. They're dealing with criminals.
Right.
Everyone that has contact with the police is not a criminal.
Exactly.
That is so true.
On the show that I just did, that was the topic of the show. Is it a crime? And I listed things that our government officials do, things that our police department does, things that the current president of the United States does. All of them, I had to ask my listening audience, is this a crime?
Right.
Is this a crime? Because you're doing these things, prison for profit. Is that a crime? Is it okay to put people in prison, destroy families, because you need to make some money? Like, is that a crime? And yet the very thing that you're doing, you will take us and put us in jail.
Exactly. That's the part.
Not
That
only
part.
put us in jail, but throw us the hell away.
Yeah.
Now watch this. Jay, I need you to explain to the listeners and viewers, now what am I supposed to do as a citizen? Like, if I see the police breaking the law, because it's obvious, we pull out our phones, we record them, that's of no avail. What is somebody to do?
You know, that's the tricky part, because if you engage with the police and you see they're breaking the law and it's just you kind of make yourself a target. They can shoot you, they can kill you dead in the street. We know they will do that.
Yes, they
so
will.
you have to ask yourself, if in what I'm seeing, do I have it in me to step in and say something or do something, and I'm prepared for those consequences? You know, now there's power in numbers. Now, I'm not telling anybody to do anything wrong. However, if you see a police officer, in my opinion, if me and 6 of my friends are somewhere and the people I hang out with, we see a police officer
Put his knee in the neck.
We gonna get in that.
Well, that's the obvious thing. But I was talking about more on the side of, is there any, call for a white shirt? You know what I mean? Can we run it up the chain real quick? What
and
is
I've
a
got an answer
policy
for that
we
too.
can use?
Well, go ahead and
you know what I mean?
answer.
Because we need to educate. Because like you said, if we jump in and start fighting, that's a battle we're going to lose immediately.
Right.
That's not the look. That's not the look. So what do we have going on for ourselves? Should we take a badge number? Should we file a report? Should we get a petition? Should we start, before we let this police officer come to the court and put this charge on our child, should we first do a background check on him? How many bad arrests did he have? Because if you do that kind of stuff, half the people that's in jail will come home.
Yes.
Right.
I
You
agree.
understand what I'm saying? These police got more grievances in their file, but we don't look at that because it's like you said. Somebody gets locked up and then automatically he looks like the criminal. You seen him in the newspaper. He's on Delaware Online. He just looks like a damn criminal.
And people dehumanize people in the prison system, in the whole system. They dehumanize it because they don't want to deal with it. So that's why it's easy if they hear something going on with the prisons, they be like, well, they shouldn't have never went to prison. I know 2 people personally that should not be in prison. They did nothing wrong. The system, I can't even say the system failed them. The system, fuck them. You know what I mean?
Well, we know a lot of people. This is what I need you to touch on this specifically, and then Sister Rob, I'm going to get right back.
Because I have an answer for you about that.
Okay, do that, and then I'm going to need you to answer this, because you did a video one time when you were in the service, and you said it's like a thing. It's like 6 or 10 things they're supposed to do before they shoot.
Right.
I saw that.
Yeah. Could you mind spitting on that real quick, or
on the actual use of force continuum?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was prepared for this moment. I have my phone. There's 6 of them. Okay.
Yeah.
So
please.
the use of force continuum is what the police are supposed to do.
Okay.
It is written down. This is what you're supposed to do. Now the issue that we have, let me say this, is there's no consequence when they break their own laws. Okay. And one of the things that we have to do as Americans is we need to know when they're actually breaking the law. So this is the one reason why I started to look into it. Like, okay, wait a minute. Like, what is going on? Because this can't be it. This can't be right. So this is step 1. Okay, step 1 is the officer presence. So what that is, usually if something going on that's not right, the police come by, everybody gonna stop doing it. They gonna go about their business, slow down, move around. So that's the first thing they're supposed to do. Then you have verbal commands. So you might say someone's loitering or they're blocking, hey, y'all get out of the street. And then they can up the ante, like, hey, get up out of the street, or I'm going to arrest you. Get out of the street, or I'm going to detain you. Then they have a choice, right? Mm-hmm. So then you have the empty hand submission techniques. So let me read that. Okay, a level of force that has a low probability of causing soft connective tissue damage or bone fractures. This would include joint manipulation techniques, applying pressure to pressure points, and normal application of handcuffs. So that means it should never go from an officer speaking to you to hitting you.
Yeah, he jumped a step
right.
or 2.
He jumped a few steps or 2.
Understood.
Okay. Then you have hand control and aggressive response. Okay. The amount of force that has a probability of causing soft connective tissue damage or bone fractures, or irritants or to your eyes and skin. So that means that they can hit you with their mace.
I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, don't worry about that
that
because
means
we're
they can hit
popular
you-
like that.
They can hit you with their mace. So then you have 5. This is the intermediate weapon. An amount of force that would have a high probability of causing soft connective tissue damage or bone fractures. So this means they can hit you with their baton or their asp. You know how they might have the thing that come out,
Yes.
click out. That's called an asp. They can use pepper spray as the mace. It's like a step up. It's like, military grade. And they can use a taser or beanbag rounds. So then you have lethal force. This is the last thing.
Right.
So anytime,
The very last
step.
anytime you've seen a citizen running and got shot in the back, or you seen a citizen run and they put their hands up and they got shot, the police have murdered this person by the law. Okay? The last one, lethal force, deadly force. A force with a high probability of causing death or seriously body injury. Serious bodily injury includes unconsciousness, protracted bones, disfigurement, and of course death.
Right now.
Wow.
That's educational. It's
Very.
important. And let me just say this for the record. I don't give a fuck if you get mad. I have to educate my people and tell them about the use of force continuum, because it's no way I should get pulled over in my car and be scared half to death to
Right.
pick my cell phone up and call my relative and say, hey, they swung me. I shouldn't be scared to go in my glove compartment and get my registration because you're going to skip 4 steps and send me to Congos. That's not a good look.
Facts.
Sister Rod, take the microphone, please.
I wanted to intercede from a lawful perspective. You said that the cell phone means nothing to videotape whatever it is that's going on, and I would just have to agree to disagree with you on that.
Okay.
When you are in your car by yourself, I'm thinking of myself as a woman. And because I know the law, now I know better how to handle that. So I've been stopped before I knew the law, and I've been stopped after I know the law. And my strongest recommendation would always be to pull your phone out immediately, begin to record it, whether it's a Facebook or just your live camera, whatever you can do, record it, because that's proof of what the transaction is between
know
yourself
cops lie.
and the police officer. The second thing is, remember this. Always remember this. The policeman that's approaching you is twice as frightened as you are. He's more afraid than you are. So the least little jerk and move can definitely create a hazardous situation. For me, when I know that the police are behind me, or where I'm about to have a transaction or communications with them, I start my cell phone. And when they get to my window, I'm telling them, I want to speak with your supervisor. You have a right lawfully to only roll your window down enough to do a communication or to pass papers through, and say, I want to you can demand, I want to talk to your supervisor. I want a supervisor present during this transaction. And it is a transaction. It is an unwritten contract, because before that police officer leaves, he's going to either offer you a piece of paper for some citation, a ticket,
Yes.
or whatever, or like you said, you're going to Congo's funeral home.
Yes.
So you have to be able to record it on your cell phone. I'm a big advocate for that, and I absolutely know.
Document it.
Because the
Yes,
police
to
lie.
document it.
You must tell them, I will speak. I
have a
want
tip
your
on that, too.
supervisor
I
on
have a
the
tip.
set.
I have a tip for that. And it's unfortunate that I even have to say this, but you ever seen those things you can put them around your neck and they are plastic clear and you can put your cards in it?
Yeah.
You have your license in there.
The
your-
Moors use
your
those.
registration
Yeah, they do.
and all of your stuff and have it in there, so you ain't got to dig
Have it
for
ready.
nothing. It could be hanging from your window.
Yes.
There you
Okay.
go.
Deezy, can I speak?
Yes.
Yes,
please.
you can. So, here's the thing. I need to clear up what I was saying. I wasn't saying that the camera is not effective, because it absolutely is the best tool for documentation. I was just saying, how many people have they murdered on camera? They don't
Yes.
look at that camera and say, oh, he's got a camera, let me not kill somebody.
Right.
They encourage that, because that's how they instill fear in us. Just like we look at those videos on Facebook and YouTube, and the guy punches the guy, they get in a fight, and they get millions of views. Everybody wants to see it. They pass it around like a hot potato. Now, that's when they kill people, they know it's going to be the same thing. They pass it around. They put it in everybody's inbox. They pass it around, and that instills fear. Subliminal marketing. Subconscious marketing. So even, you know what I mean, you're seeing it, so you're automatically supposed to be scared because you're seeing so many people get killed in a day. You're seeing more people get killed in your inbox on your social media, Facebook, than a Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator movie. And that is a scary thing. Now, we all grew up, we're all in the upper age or whatever. We were never in, like, looking at the police in that manner. We knew it was some level of respect you had to give them.
Yes.
But now it's to the point, if you're not doing the right thing, you could possibly get killed.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and I'm not even talking about aggressive behavior. I'm talking about, like you said, you know, the cops are just as scared or more scared, some of them.
Yes.
But there's some of them,
there's
some of them that are like what she said, they're straight up cowboys, and they came to work today to catch a body.
Yes, they came to kill a nigga.
Now,
excuse my language, but what did you call it? The blue KKK?
The Blue Klux Klan.
The Blue Klux Klan.
Now, and I always, here's the Thomas disclaimer. I am not saying that all police are bad. Let me say that. I am not saying that. There are plenty of good cops. There are plenty of good neighborhood officers that are thorough. I have met some myself in my community. It's not the same as back in the day when it was the stop and frisk thing. It's a lot different. But what I am saying is I just wanted to educate my people on that, and we're not going to stick on it. We're going to move to the next
we
topic.
Talk about that whole night.
Yeah, well, we can actually talk about it for 1 million trillion years until change comes. And we're headed the direction of change. Thanks to George Floyd. We won't go there. We got enough on that.
Right.
Now, all right, we talked about de-escalation. Now, this is something I need Sister Rod to jump in with both feet. Rod, tell us what's up with voting. I know you got a nice spill on it too, but Rod knows about politics and all the stuff. What's up with voting?
Okay, so I have my own show every Wednesday night from 7 until 8 where I have elected officials or candidates who want to become elected officials. They'll come on and I interview them on my show. And and then, of course, Sundays I do the Make Some Intelligent Noise.
Where's your show?
I am over at WHG and, of course, Facebook. And, of course, my website is Make Some Intelligent Noise, MSIN. Gotcha. So everything is kind of under the MSIN banner. YouTube, Instagram, everything. Okay. So, and if you want to find me on Facebook, it is Rachelle Wilson. Anyway, for voting, I've come to learn because, again, as I stated, I've taken the last 10 years to learn the law because I'm still in a fight for my son's liberation. But I've come to see that you got to know the politicians. You got to know the elected officials, the servants, public servants. And so I've had an opportunity to do that simply because of my movement. So making friends with some of them and then wanting to know more about others, I decided to do the Political Power Hour. One of the things that I think it's important for your audience to understand, do not vote or based on Democrat and Republic and Independent and Federalist and Green and all of that. Don't do that. Look at the person's individual character. Who are they? Who are these people that you're putting in these offices to be your public servant? Will they truly serve you? And I can tell you, I'm always interested in learning more about politics and more from the elected officials and the candidates. We've got a lot of young people with these great fresh ideas. They want to come in like whirlwinds and just change everything. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. We love that fresh energy.
Right.
But it's like the old bull and the young bull. Okay. You need the wisdom of those people who have been at it for a while. Okay. Okay. So that's why I do the Political Power Hour.
So you believe in not reinventing the wheel, kind of.
Yeah. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just get to know the person who's the candidate.
So how do you upgrade if you don't want to reinvent the wheel? Like if you don't want a newer version, how can you upgrade on a politician? Because let me ask you the question. Because you got millennials. These guys are young. They've never voted before. Some of them, it's going to be their first time.
Yes.
And they can't identify with somebody who looks like their great-grandfather. We know what the great-grandfather guy can do. But, I mean, I haven't seen much change, and I'm 50. But how can we, how can that young guy, because that's who's going to lead the future. Rob, we're getting old. That's who's going to lead the future.
The answer to your question is as simplistic as 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
for every young candidate, or if they're voted in and become an elected official, for every young elected official that is taking a seat, they must have an older mentor to guide them through some of the process, the wisdom, the relationships, a lot of things. If there's anything I've learned at Make Some Intelligent Noise, a lot of things get done based on my relationship with you. I like you, but I don't like you so much. But you need to get a bill passed, or you need some legislation to go through that can only come through me, but we don't like each other. So what happens? You like her, the two of you get along, she's my girl. So she comes to me, says, hey, come on, Rachelle, vote for, horses and pigs to live together. I'm just using that as an analogy. Absolutely. Vote this way on this particular issue. Now, I'm going to ask her, well, where'd you get that from, JRenee? Oh, well, it's actually coming off of Timeless Thomas. It's his idea, and it really works. Well, I don't like Timeless, but I like you, and I actually like the policy or the legislation. So you know what? I'm going to go with it. You're going to get the vote that you need in order to see your policy pass. It's about relationships, and young people don't have those. They don't have relationships.
I understand. They're too
so they
new.
need
They're babies.
They're babies. They need a mentor.
Okay, now, and that's beautiful. So wise.
Is that mine?
That's the gray. So wise. Now, Jay.
Silver. It's silver. Thank you.
Pardon me. Jay, this is the part that I need you on. You have educated me on the black vote. Talk about that. Give that spill back.
Okay. The black vote is very, very important. They even named it. And I always say America doesn't name anything that's not important. And for a long time, a lot of people that look like us were told that our votes don't matter. And a lot of times, from just growing up, a lot of times, like when I was growing up, my grandmother was a Democrat. And when she used to take me in the voting booth, she would like, we're a Democrat and we vote for Democrats. And click, click, click. Back in the day, it used to be the little click thing. So I didn't know any better. I had to learn to, that someone needs to earn my vote. So the black vote is definitely important. They come looking for it. Every time it's time to get elected, all of a sudden you're seeing their propaganda coming through on your television station. You ain't never seen nothing about them.
You haven't heard from them all in 4 years. Now it's time to vote. And what do they want? They want the black vote.
Yeah.
So for black people, black and brown and golden people, and I love my people. I love my people, but I do not like ignorance. Okay? So for them to be ignorant, to think, oh, voting doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference. That's falling into the fear and the control that they want you on, much like the coronavirus, the COVID-19, the fear and the control. Everyone's walking around with face masks, scared to interact with each other, and people don't want to go to the voting polls because they think it doesn't matter. They don't want to mail it in.
Well, my vote doesn't matter anyway.
When actually it's our vote that matters the most. And to your point about Democrat versus Republican, again, I don't want to get into voting for either of the other. But this nation and many of our black ancestors were Republican.
Yes.
In 1921, the Black Wall Street was Republican. They were all black Republicans because Republicans simply means self-governing, where democracy means you are governed by someone.
Right. The Democrats, since conception, was never for black people.
Never. The Democrat was never for black people. And let's just go back a little bit. Like, I'm not going to bust anyone's bubble, but please take a closer look at Joe Biden's history before you start ranting and raving. And I know Joe. I know him. As a young person, when I began as a journalist, Joe Biden was one of those people that always allowed me to interview, always would do an interview with me. So I have the greatest respect for him as a human being. But when you look at some of his policies, we've got this whole massive incarceration going on because of some of the things that Joe Biden voted for.
He used to brag on it. He used to brag on it.
What's his name? Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
Or Jim Crow? What's his name? Joe Biden or Jim Crow? Okay, so look, we're moving right on to the next thing. All right. Now, see, the thing is, Jay, and what me and you were discussing earlier today, is the exploitation of, the indoctrination of, what our babies are receiving. They're eating the wrong foods. They're watching the wrong things on television. They're listening to the wrong music. What advice or what kind of mentorship or guidance we need to come with some solutions right here on the Timeless Thomas Show, because this is what I'm all about. We're not just talkers, we are doers.
Facts.
So tell them about your programs, the children programs, and I know Sister Rock can't wait to tag in and say she said she had some stuff, because we got to get them eating the right stuff or
right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to try to hit all of them points up. So me personally, I always say that the way the hood is built, it's built to aid in our destruction. So the main things that kill black people, you got high blood pressure, you got diabetes, you got high cholesterol. Now think about the foods that are easily accessible in the urban areas that you can walk to. You got fried food. You got all of this bull crap. You don't have a lot of fresh vegetables. And then when you go to grocery stores that might be in a predominantly black area, the vegetables are so expensive. You know what I mean? I was just in another grocery that was on a different side of town because of sale that they had. And they had their fruits and vegetables were so cheap. Like, I was like, Ma, look. You can get look at all these grapes for $5. In
a store, in a supermarket that does not particularly service the black, brown, and golden community.
Exactly. So that's the
call
one
it as
thing.
it is.
Now, when it comes to the music out there, we cannot control what I used to be really hard on artists. Like, you're supposed to make sure you're doing music right for our children. If you're a hip hop artist, and I still feel that way.
Yes.
That's why I showcase positive hip hop artistry on my show. But I also had to remember, like, it is our responsibility as the adults in our children's life to balance that out. I grew up listening to Trina and Foxy Brown and Little Kim, and I wasn't supposed to have their albums, but I had them. But I also had my grandmother and my mother and my uncles and my grandfather. Like, I don't care what that song said, this is how you do life. So we as adults, now some parents can, some parents don't. So that's when us as the community, when they say it takes a community to raise a child, that's when we step in. If you have a neighbor that's a little young kid and you see they don't have nobody in their life, say something to them. Put some knowledge on them.
There you go.
You know? And when it comes to, like, I create programs that allow children to be in a space that's completely free to them, and they get to be mentored by people in our community that's doing positive things. That might be the only one they know. Like with the fishing program, we have kids that never even thought about fishing, and now every year they're there when I'm setting up. Like, we're gonna fish today. I'm like, we're here. Beautiful. So we have to create these spaces where they're not. We gotta police up our children.
That is so beautiful. And I know that Sister Rod will call that right there making some intelligent noise.
Yes.
Okay?
It is.
Okay,
I love that. I commend you and I applaud you for that. And although my movement is all about, fighting the corruption within the prison system, turning, people's ideologies that that's in prison is a hardened criminal, when that's not true. I try to change those perspectives to the people or my listening audience. But I can honestly say that, our children in particular, Delaware is a trauma-informed state. Okay, our children, the 20-year-olds, let's just say the 20-year-olds, they are the children of the people from the what? That'd be the 80s? Mm-hmm. 80s is when crack and other various drugs were brought into our communities. So we are looking at the children, the 20-year-olds, who are now having babies that are, say, 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds. But we're looking at those children, and they're the ones that are out there looting and rioting and tearing it and burning it down, because that's the music and that's the TV and that's the everything else. But you've got to remember, 20 years ago, when crack was introduced into their communities, a lot of them, it was their parents. So these are the products, children of people who were drug addicts, drug addiction, who then now they're having babies and they're 4 and 5 and 3 and 2 and whatever year olds. So maybe we can't do everything we want to do to save this generation of 20-year-olds, but we can save those 5 and 6 and 7.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that Make Some Intelligent Noise does, and I don't really broadcast this a lot, I work with kids and I teach them how to do what I do as a journalist. I mean, remember, I've got background as a teacher and 30 years of journalism. So in combining the two of those together, teaching journalism,
Right.
I work with young kids, and you don't have to go far to find them. They're right in the neighborhood.
They right here.
They're right in the neighborhood, and if they need a little extra attention, because maybe mom and dad has got a whole nother scenario going on, right? Okay, so that's the community raising the children,
Right.
And I'm a big advocate for that.
Me
I
too.
really am
Most
a big
definitely.
advocate for that.
Right, and I appreciate all of that, Ra. I want to just share one of my small experiences. When I was living in Philadelphia about 10 years ago, they had this flash mob. And that's when the little urban kids were running in the stores and taking anything, potato chips. Sometimes they went and stole jeans or whatever the case may be. So one day I'm on a bus stop, and it was an elderly black woman. And she was speaking with a lady that was sitting next to her, and they were talking about the flash mob. They was like, oh, these kids, this flash mob. And I said, wait a minute. I said, they are talking about our babies. The media has named our babies a mafia. They compared them with a mafia. These are our babies. So we can't get caught up in how the media crowns our children. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care who they killed last week, who they robbed this week. They are still our babies, and we're not afraid of them. We're not gripping our pocketbooks. We're not afraid of them. We'll still spank them on their butts, and they're still going to respect because we're going to carry ourselves with respect. You give respect, you get respect. That's a universal law and principle. So,
but also recognize this as well, D. Like, yes, you know, the younger ones, because of the way I carry myself, they see how Miss Rachelle carries herself, and that's why I'm able to approach them and say things to them that might help guide their lives, because I'm not their mama, and maybe their mama's unavailable, maybe their daddy is incarcerated, like so many fathers are, and that's why mama have to do everything, because daddy's in the prison, okay? But if you approach the young person with respect, and with some level of decency, you will find that they are willing to give you that in return. As you say, it's universal.
That's right.
But don't get it twisted. There are some that Mama Rachelle, I can't, because I know the moment I say something to her or them, it's going to be a whole issue where I can't even act like I'm her mama or her auntie. I got to straight up in the street whoop her ass.
Well, that's where we're selected.
Or you say something
Or
to
get
them
my
and
ass whooped.
and they have or you say something,
We're
they have a
selective for
parent that gets mad that you said something even though you told their child something that makes total sense.
Okay, I have to tag in strong because we have the power of choice, free will. And that's where we can be selective. We can't be Captain Save-A-Ho. We can't save everybody. But we're not going to just put that on urban children. There's children in every community that's not approachable.
Sure.
In certain communities, I'm not going to say anybody's name, they shoot schools and churches up and blame it on mental health. I won't say anybody's name or any race of people. But, you know, they do dumb stuff like that.
Yes.
And do you think they're approachable?
No, they have psychological issues.
These are people that know how to put assault rifles together from a website. So,
I don't think she was trying to say it's our problem.
Okay, because I'm just saying there's only certain groups of people that do mass shootings, and you know what I mean? So we don't. Okay. I would like to thank everybody for watching, for listening. Again, I'm with two of the dopest sisters on the universe, Sister Rachelle Wilson, Sister JRenee. Y'all know what it is, and y'all know how I do. It's your baby, Big DZ.
Peace.